Hi everyone. So there's this phrase called hate watching or hate reading, and that's when you obviously really dislike something, but you can't look away from it, so you keep watching every episode or reading every issue. And this is not exactly hate reading because that sounds so negative, but I would call it probably roast reading. So I roasted issue 5 a couple weeks ago, and it was a weird one because I thought it was going to be like 100% roasting, and then even my video is pretty even-handed. It's like, man, this story is almost good. It was like 50% good, and the other thing was just like 50% like SJW nonsense and some really, really bad white knighting by the male writer that actually really ended up infantilizing all the characters. But this one is just like, I mean, let's just look at this cover. This cover is amazing. I mean, this woman, Elsa Charretier, I think she's going to get snapped up. She's either going to get snapped up by Disney, like the studio, or DC. I can definitely see her on some kind of like Gotham Academy type of book. This is one of the best covers I've seen in years. Not necessarily like the best idea. It's just the girls like posing, but just look how well, like, the colors and everything is beautiful. But as I said before, this book is really annoying because after the election last year, there was this funny thing where people who didn't like the result, they kept on Twitter like quoting their daughter or like niece, and they were always like 8 years old, and they always had these like preternaturally wise sayings. So people started this meme about woke 8-year-olds. They say like, oh, what does your woke 8-year-old think about it? The point was that these people were lying or exaggerating, but for some reason they were all 8. So this comic seems to be made for that woke 8-year-old who actually isn't even that smart. But if you look at the team, so the team is kind of like cartoonishly checking the box diverse. Here's the weird thing. I didn't realize that this character is supposed to be Asian. So the other girls, and I really can see this appealing to girls because like these girls look very nice and friendly. I showed my daughter an issue of Ms. Marvel, and she didn't like it because she said a lot of the girls are mean. And it was even like friends of Ms. Marvel were mean. But these girls look really nice, but I want to go in on the main character. I do not even know what I'm looking at. So somebody mentioned that this is actually, so it's Hank Pym's daughter, but I don't know. And then somebody said she's supposed to be Asian. I mean, look at that jaw. And she's a teenager. It's just a weird design. It's this thing where Marvel, where they have to masculinize a lot of the female heroes. So then we get the thing that drives me nuts, the whole page. And then she's Hank Pym's daughter. I've read 2 issues, and neither one of them had Hank Pym in them. And they didn't even really explain where he was. So the situation is, she has her like cool friends. Like I said, I think she's supposed to be Asian. Somebody said that. And this one has a bomb in her head. They decided to forego consulting with every older male or better scientist, and they decided to just handle this within their group. By the way, it took like 7 hours for them to just get into the same place, and then they also slept. They had effectively a slumber party, and then they slept, and then they just woke up, and they have the SADs, as a millennial would say. So this is when it gets weird. So the people who were with them are Matt Murdock and Jarvis, the butler of the Avengers. And at no time, even in the, let's say they only slept for 4 hours that they were sleeping, did either one of these men, who between the two of them, they know every single superhero, every single one. Neither one of them said, hey, can you guys come on over? There's this girl with a bomb in her brain that's going to go off at like 7 p.m. So it's morning time right now. But basically, the Wasp, who in 2 issues never uses her powers, and in the last issue never even put her suit on. She basically has to go turn herself into like this evil stepmother type in exchange to save her friend's life. So then after wasting 12 hours, her friends get really determined. And then the two adults are still not consulting any, adult superheroes. So here's where it actually gets good. So Jeremy Whitley, just as a little, he's a huge White Knight SJW, like cartoonishly so. But I keep seeing bubbling up of an actual writer in here. Not a good writer, not like a great, but a solid writer. So things like this will come up. Number one, all of these girls have the same personality. You can take any of these dialogue balloons, even the girl who's going to die who's completely calm, and you can switch them out and it doesn't matter. They look different. So they have surface diversity, and this is what Marvel's all about, surface diversity. Oh, this one's Hispanic, this one's Asian, this one's black, and I'm probably a lesbian from America. But they all have the same personality. You can take this little tail balloon and you can move it here. So in digital art, like what you'll do is you basically, so these are digital lettering, and I do this stuff on my comics. It's really easy. You select the balloon and then you drag it. It'll form this shape. You click in it, you type, and then there's another one where you click and you literally drag out the thing. The thing is, you can even grab the end if you want to adjust it. So you can literally go like this. Doesn't even take 1 second. You go like this. You put it to her or her or her, and it wouldn't matter because it's just interchangeable dialogue. But what they do is they actually start thinking about a problem in an intelligent way. It's very basic problem solving and very basic engineering. I'm an engineer, but it's not just, oh, we have this problem, let's go find the ray gun that fixes it. They start to think about how do you get something out, and they say, oh, intangibility. And obviously that's not something that exists in the real world, but it exists in their world, and they do it from a scientific perspective. Now, very, very, very coincidentally, the thing they need is an entire, uncooled freezer. Maybe it's cooled. It's basically Vision, his skin. They're basically saying that the intangibility of Vision comes from his skin. I don't know if Jeremy Whitley just made that up or if it's in like the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, but I was like, you know what, at least it's something. So they basically say if you put something within the Vision's skin, it'll be intangible. So we can reach into her head and grab the bomb and pull it out. And then they go into this freezer, and for some reason, all the skin samples are bad except for one. I don't get that one, but it's just doing the the classic trope of we only have one and this has got to work. So they do this thing that's kind of gross, but it's very memorable, and it's this type of thing that it's about. They find some regular gloves, and then they put the Vision skin, and then they figure out a power source. This is powered electrically. So this is some good stuff they're talking about, this basic problem solving. Now again, none of these characters have any personality besides like a shared gestalt personality in between of them, but they make these gloves and they have a plan, and they even and so this is weird. Like I said, there's this weird like Archieization, like they make, this looks like an Archie comic. So the deal is, when they hire SJW writers and artists, almost none of them actually like superhero comics, and their only familiarity with comics is Archie comics. That's why these all look like Archie comics. It's literally the only comics they've ever read. So then, in true engineer fashion, they come up with a plan, but they're like, we have to test this on someone. Jarvis actually acts like a man and an adult, and he says, if you're going to test this on anyone, test it on me. I'm like, all right, thank you. I don't know why you didn't use your cell phone to call 50 very smart superheroes who could solve this problem in an instant. The main character is actually not even interesting. She's just talking to this, like, in this very generic, God, this is literally like, I talk about drawing effective backgrounds quickly. These are ineffective backgrounds drawn quickly. And like I said, I really like this artist. I don't know if she was rushed, but this is not a good background. This is silly. And also the character, I think, is supposed to be frightening, but it just seems like a weird design. So then they come up, but then it's kind of weird. Originally they talked about pulling it out of her head, and then they realized since the bomb actually sticks out of their head, they can just touch it and then turn it intangible, and then they pull it out. This is where it gets crazy. This scene I was really into. So one of the things I'm talking about is they all have the same personality, and they never really act like anything is dangerous. Even though their friend's going to die, they don't have any human emotions. They're just generic girls, according to how like some kind of creepy white knight guy thinks girls should act. But then they get the bomb out of her head, and then they suddenly start treating this like a real situation. The black lesbian hipster girl all of a sudden starts acting serious. She's like, geez, I got a bomb in my hand. I have to get this out immediately. And in a kind of actually very cool twist, she just throws it into the next yard. By the way, okay, no, she throws it into the backyard. She throws it into their own backyard. And right here, it looks like she's throwing it into the neighbor's yard, which would just be really, that'd be a bad neighbor. So they throw the bomb from the girl's head that they pulled out in a very, heroic and smart way. And coincidentally, some bad guys from the creepy old woman were in the backyard. So it's actually really cool where the girl bursts in and she's very frantic. She's acting like a person and like there's stakes. I instantly got into this. So then she goes, guys with guns. There are guys with guns in the woods. Then she says, like police? I did not think to ask. Okay, people don't describe cops like that. I did not think to ask who they were after I threw a bomb at them. Okay, you know what? That's funny. They kept trying to do this cutesy millennial speak, and it was really awkward. But this is a person acting like a person, and it is a crazy situation where they use the vision skin on gloves to pull a bomb out of a girl's head. But it's called verisimilitude, and even something crazy, you need something to hold on to that's normal, which is normal human emotions. And we finally got them after like 2 issues. So then the bad guys shoot through, and everyone acts like a human being reacting to gunfire, especially, like a non-soldier. They're like panicking and they're stricken and just trying to dive to the ground. It's like, oh, wow, I'm actually into this. This real cheesy villain. So then we cut back to Nadia, who has never used her powers once. And she uses an EMP, which is just like real bargain basement, has done a million times. And she's like, ha, 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 I got you. And then she's like, well, I can't use my suit or my comms in my head. I'm pretty sure this whole thing looks like it relies on electronics. So it's like, oh, cool, you don't use her powers, and now, like, you got... Oh, luckily, like, her friend was down there. She could just run into her friend's car. So anyway, look at this scene. This is great. Compare it to that terrible generic background a couple pages ago, and this is just beautiful. And they really do have stakes. And if you notice, the girl who had the surgery, she's actually bleeding out of the back of her head because they just pulled something out of their head that, it's there's like an abscess. So then so even though they just got attacked, like, they drive from Manhattan in literally like 30 seconds. This is in Jersey. So you could say that was a trope, but in the last issue, there was literally like 4 pages of coordinating people getting from like the 5 boroughs to Jersey, and they gave like realistic times, like, oh, I can be there an hour and a half. Oh, I'm on the west side of Manhattan. I can be there in 30 minutes. So they just like instantly get there. And then supposedly she's had some training, but still we get the thing of the 100-pound girl beating up like 5 men. All right, okay, fine. And then Daredevil like only gets the last one. So the man who's 190 pounds of muscle, who's fought like 20 ninjas at once, he only helps with like one guy, the cool girl. Oh, and then she gets another one. And then they run in and they do this stupid thing where girls, like, this is, like I said, this is like White Knight SJW inanity, where girls are always like just girl power, hug time. Okay. And then she's like, oh, I'm a little woozy. Yeah. I'm bleeding. Mind you, like back here, I'll zoom in on it if I can. Like, there's like a puddle of blood pouring out of the back of her head, and they didn't notice it. So like, they were smart for like one scene, and then they went back to being a bunch of dummies. So then like we get a whole page is like, you're my bestie, you're my bestie, and she's like, can we go to the freaking hospital? And then she's like, oh, I died. And I think when I flipped through this at the comic store, I was like, oh, was there a second bomb or something cheesy? It's no, they just didn't properly treat the abscess in her head. They just pulled a foreign object out of her brain, and then they're like, orange mocha frappuccino. Like, that was it. That's all you had to do. But here's where it gets really great. Now, they did this in the last one. The problem was So they're really trying to push women in STEM. And so they interview women who actually work in STEM. It's science, technology, engineering, and math, I believe, STEM. But the last one, it was like these two girls who were just kind of very bland. And these two girls, they interview them, and they have more personality. I'm not going to read everything, and especially since they just started up a gigantic lawnmower outside my apartment right now. But, okay, I'm going to wrap this up. But the point is that these two girls should either be writing this book or co-writing it with the White Knight guy, because they have a lot of personality. They write their essay responses very well, and they really express themselves in a cool way. One of this one, Marina, she works in basically nuclear deproliferation. She's a scientist who actually verifies, that nukes have been disassembled, and that's great. And then Lisa has a really cool job. She makes CubeSats. These are like very small satellites, and she has like a pilot's license. All this stuff comes off really great. So honestly, this should have been, you should kind of, something like this, you should kind of make it like 2 or 3 pages and make it a lot more graphic. Even for me, it took me like 3 tries to get through this block of text. But this is really great stuff. This was like, okay, the last one was like 50% great. This one was about 60. But you can see where it's like, these girls would not be writing these girls like the, friendship is magic, like 90% morons that they are. They'd be writing girls who, when they pull a bomb out of someone's head, they say, okay, now we need to get her to a hospital immediately. Or they would have come up with something to staunch the bleeding, or to put her in some sort of, fugue state where her blood pressure would be lower, something like that. They wouldn't just like this is so funny because they're literally congratulating themselves, and like they're like, we did it. And it's like, next panel, yeah, I'm bleeding out of my brain. So would I recommend to read this? No, I still wouldn't. There's just the main character is a total non-character, and then all the other characters who they actually spend as much or more time on. God, look at that jaw. This is not a 15-year-old girl's jaw. But they have to make her masculine for some reason. So yeah, I would not recommend to read it. I did, like I said, I had some fun roast reading. I actually got into one scene that was actually pretty good. The scene where they actually get the bomb out of the head and leading up to it. So, but it's just too much of like a White Knight guy infantilizing women, and I think the most like egregious part is just giving them all the same personality. It's like there's generic girl personality. So I wouldn't show this to my daughter. I think she would get bored quite quickly. She likes to flash. She likes, Wonder Woman. She wouldn't like this. So yeah, so this, I'm not gonna rip it. I read it and I roast. So I do read it, roast it, rip it. I read it. I actually enjoyed about half of it. I roasted the other half. I'm not gonna rip. The art's too good. And I like this Jeremy Whitley guy. I don't know if he can be saved, but he could probably be salvaged if there's a difference between the two of them. And oh, my breakfast burrito is ready. So thanks for watching, subscribe, share, and I'll have another new comic, well, new as in this week, review up later today.